Thank you, Chairman. Waziri, there was a cooperation that was signed between the national government and the county government of Nairobi. After the governor of Nairobi gave up his responsibilities to the national government, and Waziri, the national government, through the executive, did say that there's 80 billion Kenya shillings that was supposed to be donated to the county government of Nairobi. When we look at the current budget, Waziri, this 80 billion has not been budgeted for. Where is this money going to come from, or it was just a mere statement of puff or misrepresentation of facts? Lastly, Waziri, I would like to inform Mheshimiwa Robi that the fuel price in Uganda per liter is $1.45 US, which is approximately 187. I would like to inform Mheshimiwa Robi that the fuel price in Uganda is approximately $1.45 US, which is approximately 187 Kenya shillings. So petrol. So Mheshimiwa Robi, stop thinking in installments. Lastly, Mheshimiwa Wario did.
Owino, I didn't give you a chance to respond to your colleagues.
I just said, Mheshimiwa,
ask your questions and then the Treasury will respond.
Yeah, you are giving the incoming governor a lot of
the committee matters should not be allowed. The Honorable Waziri, I think now I want to give you the opportunity to respond to the questions.
Chairman, Babu does not even visit Uganda. I was in Uganda over the weekend. There is a crisis in Uganda.
Thank you.
And the fuel,
Thank you. I think
and fuel pump is 260.
Let's allow the minister who is here with his team of experts to give us answers on the questions we have. If we begin to answer ourselves, I don't think we don't need to have the Treasury people coming here. Remember, let's remain quiet and allow the CS, Dr. Gichuki, let's allow the CS to respond. I'll give you some space later.
let me come to the questions raised by Honorable Babu Owino. And I'm happy that Honorable Babu said that I should lecture him like a standard one dropout, and I'm going to do exactly that. You know, I said you help me understand, not lecture, or help you understand. That I'll do that. I'll help you understand. I know you are not a standard one dropout, but I'll do that. Now, you see, prices is a function of demand and supply. Basic economics. And by the way, let me first correct Honorable Babu. I've seen you together with your self-imposed party leader trying to scandalize, so to speak, the capacity and competence of an accountant in running National Treasury, and saying that accountant should be a finance expert. For your information and his information, there is no finance expert who is not an accountant. Actually, for you to be a finance expert, you have to be an accountant. Before the 844, there was no finance option in the Faculty of Commerce. It used to be accounting. So you qualify as an accountant. And in accounting, you do all forms of finance, including public finance, corporate finance, and all the finances. So finance is actually a subset of accounting. It's within accounting. And by the way, in accounting, we not only do that, but we do law. We do basic law, we do commercial law, we do corporate law, we do everything about law. And we go a step further to do ICT. Actually, if there is any profession, if once you qualify, you can be anything, is an accountant. So I just wanted to allay your fears. One time I see you nursing some ambitions of being president, maybe 2052 or 2057. You can confidently.
Honorable Owino.
Honorable Babu, you can confidently. Let me just finish. You can confidently hire an accountant as your finance minister. But let me come to now your questions. You see, I started by saying basic economic concepts. In fact, I would call it macro MM1, macroeconomic, foundations of macroeconomics. You learn that price is a function of demand and supply. Now, even if you are sourcing your fuel from India, leave alone the Middle East, India. Whatever happens in Middle East affects the supply globally. You know, the Strait of Hormuz is not in dispute, transits 20% minimum of global fuel. Now the 80% is a lower supply compared to 100%. So up to that, I think we are together. Now, the demand remains constant, supply has shrunk to 80%. Now, all these people who are getting their supply through the Strait of Hormuz are going to scramble for the fuel coming from other regions and other areas. So you really don't have to have your fuel passing through Strait of Hormuz. Actually, we have not said as a country that we cannot get our fuel because Strait of Hormuz has been blocked, because we know our fuel is passing through elsewhere. But the price now comes up because the demand remains constant. Supply has risen. The document.
Babu Owino, please. If Babu Owino, we don't work in Parliament like that. When somebody is Babu Owino, you don't have the floor. You will be given the floor later.
I thought I was to explain to him like a Senate one. Now he's behaving like a professor. So, point of information. Let me come back.
You can't inform him. Let him do his part, then you will get a chance to respond.
No, he's my friend. You know, Babu is my friend and my student in politics. So I was just explaining that you really don't have to have your fuel passing through Strait of Hormuz. What we are saying, Strait of Hormuz blocking has disrupted global supply of fuel anywhere, including the US. Okay? So that is the basic principle. Now that has led to global increase in prices, landing costs. Yeah? What comes here, they call it Platts cost. It comes here at a different price than what was there in February. So that explains why the prices have to go up. Now, price of fuel in Uganda, it should also be understood that I've done this comparison. I wish I carried my information. In April, the prices of fuel in Uganda was higher than Kenya. Now, and Mheshimiwa has come from there. The gap, the difference is not that much, even though Uganda, again, don't fix the prices. The price is allowed to fluctuate. But you see, let me tell you, the Ugandans, as an economy, their stock lags behind ours. So sometimes you may see that the price is still low, but in a month or two, it will jump and even be beyond Kenya. And I'm sure that is what Mheshimiwa has started to see. And I said it, in the month of May and going to June, you will see prices in Uganda higher than Kenya. There is no doubt about it. Kenyan economy is a bigger economy, we consume more, and as we have a storage of about 15 days, they have a storage of more, a longer period. So that is one reason. But I would also tell you, as a matter of fact, that their supply for fuel is not guaranteed because they have not gotten into this G2G arrangement. Many countries are now coming to Kenya to learn this G2G, which some of us are trying to fight. Now you have asked me a very good question, Honorable Babu. Why is it that development budget is consuming only, actually it is 751 billion. Last year it was 760. Why is it that we are consuming just a small portion of the budget in development expenditure and the budget is going up? Where is it going to? One of the areas it has gone to is CFS. CFS is now taking 1.5 trillion, 1.5 trillion, up from 1.36 trillion last year. Why? Because a lot of debts, you asked who has put us here. Who has put us here is actually one of your friends who has led this country. Because the debts that were taken, the expensive debts that were taken, particularly around 2015, 2016, 2017, is what has put us here. We have to pay that interest. We have no choice. We have no choice because debt is a first charge. So when I see some people say that someone left a functioning economy, far from it. Actually, I will tell you, IMF, and it is on record, predicted that Kenya was going to default in paying our debts. In 2022, 2021, they predicted that. Remember, you and I were in a meeting in Masai Lodge. What were we told? That this government would not survive for 3 months. Because he told us, and this is not a lie, that I know where I've left this country. Didn't he say that? So what was he telling us in short? That he had ruined the economy of this country, that he had messed the economy of this country. And in fact, that day, I got very angry, not because of what he told, but I was wondering, he wanted to leave the leadership to Raila Odinga, where I was going to be the Minister for Finance. I didn't know that I would again become the Minister for Finance in Ruto's government. So I was cursing and saying, so what did he want? Which economy was he leaving for me to run with Raila Odinga? Anyway, that's a matter for another day. But I am just telling people who were probably not in that meeting, and majority of us, apart from the chair, myself, Honorable Waziri, repeat that again. Shako was there. Waziri, Honorable Chien was there. Repeat for the media to hear. Ruto Odinga and Anaseka.
Members, you have to talk through the chairman. The tendency to just log in the microphone and talk without passing through me is illegal. It's not allowed.
Yeah.
If you want to talk,
no, but chairman,
come through me. Yes.
Chairman, sorry.
Let's allow the minister to continue. And
the reason why, Chairman, I've gone this route, and it should be understood that I'm actually, it's not really a joke. I have gone this route because this issue of fuel and the issue of economy has ceased to be a discussion which is professional. It is political. And I have also to lay bare the politics because I understand it. I have been there. I was there in Masai Lodge when we were told that don't worry, this government will not survive for 3 months. I knew that was a lie because there is no government that will have. So was the government, how could Kenya fail? It was not going to fail. We were going to have problems, but it was not going to fail. So I wanted just to remind Babu that remember our friend, my friend and your friend, told us that he messed the economy, in short. And so we are trying to correct it. We are trying to work around it. That is why we have removed the risk of default. The risk of this country defaulting. We have removed that to 2031. 2031. We have liability money 2027, 2028, and even 2032. It's only 2031 where you can still say we have some elements of risk. That is proper thinking. Now, in terms of what time do I work? You know, you must understand the role of a cabinet secretary. Is policy. Cabinet secretary, policy. I have 3 principal secretaries. The government is not mad and the people of Kenya to give me 3 principal secretaries to lead the technical departments. I have director generals, about 6 of them, very competent, qualified in their professions, helping me to work. Mine is to understand what they have already synthesized and bring to me, and we sit and think strategically. And I am a very fast learner, by the way. You bring the information, very fast I understand it. I don't need to sit the whole 7 days understanding what comes from my technical people. But my role is also to communicate. I have to, you cannot make policy without communicating and interacting. How do you design policy for people you don't meet? I have to meet people everywhere, anywhere, in the villages, and I must demystify treasury. It cannot just be about sitting on the 14th floor of the Treasury building. I went to Ali Wario's constituency, and that is when I realized that 100 million can make a big difference. It can save lives. I did not know that if I was just sitting at the National Treasury building. I went to the ground and people talked to me directly, Wazes and Wamama, crying how they have been losing their children as they cross to school. And that is why I proposed that we allocate resources, and I am sure we have even allocated more to complete those 2 bridges for Ali Wario in this budget. That is the kind of leadership that is required. My PS sits in the office with this technical team, occasionally comes out, but sits most of the time in the office. I sit half-half in the office, and as required, I sit in the office, do the work, go out, communicate, interact, explain. That is my work. And I told them when I got into this position that one thing I'm bringing into Treasury is not any new thinking, is how to communicate fast what you do, and that is what I'm doing. So I hope Honorable Babu Owino. But I know, Honorable Babu Owino, it is out of fear that he
has asked whether you are attending Kisumu rally on 31st.
Yeah, that one I will attend. Now, but you see, Babu Owino is more, I think more of his problem is about Nairobi, but I'm not going to run for Governor Nairobi. Now, Ali Wario on equalization fund, by the way, I want to give this commitment. I'm going to do more oversight of this fund to see that it is released in time. Yeah. On marginalization, I agree, and I've already talked about it. Remember, Chairman, there was a time in this country, PS used almost the entire budget of the Ministry of Water to campaign for governor. We saw it. That's what happens. So we must make sure that we enhance inclusivity. Honorable Ruth Odinga has asked me about Koru Soin Dam again. Koru Soin Dam had challenges. It was awarded to a contractor, but there was no budget. We have a problem of even compensating the people who are removed from that area. I think there's about 2 billion to be paid. So we looked at it and reviewed that it may not be easy to fund it through the normal budgetary allocation of GOK. We sat around this. Actually, we even discussed with the head of state, and we agreed that 2 approaches. It is under PPP, but it is also one of the projects that we have captured for NIF consideration under National Infrastructure Fund. On KRA,
Honorable Ruth Odinga, I can give you permission to ask a question. Take the microphone. On, yes.
Well, that the president did tell us that about this, and I was wondering, because now as you're speaking, it seems like there's nothing that has been done so far, and it's still really just in the beginning stages. So that's why I'm wondering.
Thank you. Waziri.
No, you know, there is a lot of procedure, because first, this contract had been awarded to a contractor. You have to renegotiate the exit, and we also have it under PPP program, and it is under NIF. NIF is just kicking in. So I would urge, because this is something that we have talked about so many times, it is something that's also very close to my heart, because I know that is one of the projects that both of us from ODM, we have been pushing very, very strongly. And I'm sure that this is a project that before the end of this term of government, we must see some positive progress. The same way Lake Victoria Ring Road, we will see progress. On the issue of Safaricom and KPC, these ones were captured in the 2025-26 framework. They are in this framework. In fact, KPC, we have concluded. The money is with the National Infrastructure Fund. Safaricom, we will get the money before the end of financial year. So we can't again capture it in the 26-27 budget. On funding the regional development authorities, yes, there are some that we are doing away with. Those ones we don't want to fund, but we'll continue funding those which we are remaining. And that is the budget is there. You can see the budget. We have included a number of them in the budget. I didn't come up with a list, but on the leather factory, I need to check. Always we implement the government directives. The letters come, I mark them to my departments, and we process them together with the line ministries. Because again, there is no budget that sits at the National Treasury. They have to get priority in the state departments. And presidential directives are usually given very high priority in budget planning.
And Waziri, through the chair, do you have the funding for Suswa SGR to Kisumu?
We do. There is funding. It is a blended financing approach. If you look at the budget today, we have about 20 billion, I think. But again, the contractor is bringing in resources, and we are also negotiating on the railway development levy to put into it. So there is funding for it. On current percentage of debt to GDP ratio, it's about...
Through the chair, did you talk about Kosiga Dam?
Kosiga was very deliberate. I wanted us to discuss that outside, because we have not captured it in the budget, but I think it is, that one we can't do under National Infrastructure Fund, and we can't do it under PPP because it may not be commercially viable like these others. So we need to get GOK funding for it. That's why I deliberately left that out of my submission. We may discuss it away from this.
Thank you.
I almost added something, but I don't want to add that. On debt to GDP ratio, that is 65% in present value terms. Remember, when this administration came into office, it was 72%. We have tried to lower it, but we want to go all the way to 55%, because that is what the law requires. It may be tricky for us in 2028, but it will be something that we are looking at going forward. It is actually the correct amount, the correct percentage is 65.6%. On savings to GDP ratio, we may get that data later. I don't think even tax to GDP ratio. But tax to GDP ratio is it's here in the 14.9. 14.3. No. This one. Yeah. Yeah. But we are projecting 14.3. Yes. Projecting 14.3 is 14.9 in the supplementary one, but we are projecting 14.3. Because we are lowering the base for the next year. We don't want to be overambitious in the next financial year. How to improve the percentages? One of the things is to make sure that we operate positive primary balance. And I hope this committee will help me maintaining the budget to have a positive primary balance. We are ending the year with a negative primary balance, and that's not very good. Measures to put money in people's pockets. You know, this question keeps on coming, but it should be understood that now we are operating in very difficult times. But again, this government, I don't think there is any government which has faced the kind of challenges that this government has faced. Remember, someone was trying to compare the first 3 years of President Kibaki, first 3 years of President Uhuru, first 3 years of President Ruto. Allow me, Chair, if I'm not overstretching it, just to compare the three. President Kibaki was elected on the final last day of December 2002, and immediately was pronounced the president. That was it. Everybody accepted. Uhuru conceded defeat. Everything settled. And the economy, however bad, it started work. No demonstrations until the political atmosphere became a bit charged after the referendum of 2005. So for about 3 years, he enjoyed absolute stability. No demonstrations. There was no major drought that I can remember. There was no war anywhere in the world that I can remember. Donors were very happy, came handy, everybody was coming in. Now, come to President Uhuru. President Uhuru Kenyatta came in 2013, and immediately was pronounced the president. We went to the Supreme Court. And once the Supreme Court made a verdict, remember, then Raila announced that I don't agree, but I will accept. And that was it. No demonstrations, no nothing, for about 3 years. In fact, the next demonstration that we had was when now we wanted to remove Hassan, his Hassan Commission, IBC. Then Machozi Monday came in, kicked in. That was around 2016, 2017. And of course, we got them out. And of course, the economy had challenges. There was no major drought that I can remember. There was no world war or anything. Now, come to President Ruto. It is true that Raila accepted after Supreme Court verdict. But immediately after that, we saw an opportunity. Cost of living was high. And of course, the cost of living didn't just get high. It was gradually getting high. And we put sufrias on our heads and went to the streets and fought in the streets, and the economy was disrupted, period. But remember, just before elections, Russia decided to hit Ukraine. And the effect of that war got pronounced as the year graduated into end of 2022, then 2023. So there was the Ukraine war. You add to the sufrias on our heads, demonstrations. Then came the finance bill, 2024, and the country almost became ungovernable. For 3 months, economy is shut and closed. And as if that is not enough, we then got the worst drought in 40 years, reported by weather people. In 40 years, the worst drought. But before the drought, there was flooding early 2025. Serious flooding in this country. Then came, you remember what happened in my Mayu, people died in my constituency, we lost lives, and it was reported everywhere. So, and it happened everywhere in the country. Then drought. Then now today, Trump, Israel decides to hit Iran. Iran decides to retaliate by doing the unthinkable. First, closing that Strait of Hormuz, which Honorable Babu thinks is not a major deal, and everybody else, including Wazungu, wanasema it's a big deal. And then, refineries, you belong to UAE. No one imagined that Iran would hit their neighbors, Iran. And they've hit their neighbors. And the supply is disrupted. Now, with all this, and now even the supply of fertilizer will be disrupted, by the way. We were lucky that this planting season, we had already imported fertilizer. What of now the next planting season? It is not something that is easy. I tell you, President Ruto has managed the difficult period in any president would ever imagine. And no one seems to be appreciating that. Now, coming to money in people's pockets. So many people appreciate, but so many others also don't want us to believe. In fact, some of the people who imagine that they can lead this country, if they were put in positions of leadership as are now, we would be cursing. In fact, I think people would not even be eating. But remember, this government, because people's, how do you assess money in people's pockets? It's either the cost of goods. I mean, you have the same income with lower prices of commodities, or higher prices of commodities with higher income. Now, we have had challenges with the income because our economy is not producing enough jobs as it should. But it is because of what is happening even globally. You cannot create so many jobs in uncertainty. I read in this report that Nairobi Securities Exchange is showing now capital flight because of the war. People are cautious. Investors are becoming more cautious. Everybody wants to wait and see approach. So that is not an economy that can produce so many jobs as would be expected. In a situation like the one we are in, you cannot create so many jobs. But again, Chair, hasn't the government done something about cost of commodities? The cost of basic commodities, especially food, we have tried in the basic food commodities. We have tried to intervene, fertilizer, seeds, and you can see the prices even with this disruption worldwide. At least locally, I don't see the price of unga going up. Sahi, Kenyans would be all over in the streets complaining about food. We are complaining about fuel, but not food today. Why? Because of government interventions. Yes, you can talk of weather. How many times have we had good weather before? Have we had a prolonged period where supply of food is never challenged like ours? Look at what we have done on the macros. To the extent now, banks have started giving more loans to the private sector. It was improving. It was coming up. Why it not been for this disruption? And even now, still the debt uptake, credit to private sector is still not affected so much. So a lot is happening. A lot needs to happen. But again, we must understand where we are, the environment where we are. And I've addressed the issue of fuel prices before, and that is the case. How much are we going to collect, Honorable Kawanjiku? I think that is provided here in the statistics. Ordinary revenue, we will be collecting about 2.985 trillion. And total revenue, 3.629 trillion. 644 will be appropriations in aid. And how much debt? We are projecting about 1.1 trillion. Why? Because expenditure has gone up to 4.785 trillion. A lot of it because of CFS. Debts, a lot of debts, interest are now falling due. Need to inform people appropriately, yes. We are actually communicating. The people who are not understanding are people who want to play politics. And we will engage them. Kenya, in the fullness of time, Kenyans will understand us. Some of us are ready to explain to Kenyans and give them the truth and facts as they are. Yeah? We are struggling as a government with all these problems, but still you see a lot happening in the country. We don't have stalled roads anymore, as it were. I have a road in my constituency, Chair, and you know it. That road was awarded in 2020. By the time this government came into office, even 7 kilometers had not been done. 7 had not been done. Right now, that road has progressed to 28 kilometers in a period of 1.5 years. Yeah, and it is happening in many places. They will tell you roads that are stalled. How many markets are we doing in every county? 18 minimum. Almost all counties in the country. 18 markets coming up. Affordable housing are coming up. You and I and many members here come from the blue economy region. How much investment has this government put in blue economy, including of buyers, including of the landing sites and many others, and investment in coffee sector, investment in tea sector, investment in milk sector. Milk sector has been reduced to almost an individual show. I want to be very careful because I'm told there are people who ukeguza ni kama umeguza the whole tribe. I didn't know that when you talk about some individuals in the whole tribe.
They don't have some people. They don't have their reps here.
Thank you. Committee. No, but Kenyans out there, they may start misunderstanding what I say. To me, if you touch me, the Subas or those will not come out. But there are some people you touch, one person like this, the whole community is up and down. So anyway, that is how life is. Maybe this is animal farm. Some are more equal than others. On housing, we will discuss with the housing sector. Just to see, we always support the housing sector. Remember, we even gave them more budgetary provision in the supplementary budget. And we will make sure, because this is a flagship project. If there is any one area that this government is succeeding in, is the housing sector. And that is why I realized my friend Babu, Owino, who is a very intelligent man, when he was asked, when you become a governor of Nairobi, what will you do? He made sure that he didn't address that question properly because he knew if he addressed it, he was going to support President Ruto. But he didn't want to do that. Because this is one area you cannot take away from President Ruto. He has succeeded. Whether you are his friend or enemy, you will agree with anybody else. Look, UN is recognizing Kenya as having succeeded in terms of affordable housing. It is this is not something we can fail to support, Honorable Kwanyi. We will support housing sector. Honorable Aseka, Cabinet Secretary is having vote. No, we don't have specific vote for Cabinet Secretary. My peers here will tell you. We have collective votes for transport, anything else, traveling, all those things, including per diems, is all put together, and it is the accounting officer. Yeah, I have to bow down when it comes to that. I'm the one who has given him the power to be accounting officer at the budget, but when it comes to expenditure, I have to request him and plead with him, can you facilitate me? So what ministers should do is just to have good relationship with the PSS. But again, Honorable Seka, I know the challenges our state departments are going through. We don't have much for these recurrent expenditures. We have really cut the current to enforce austerity measures. That's why you find sometimes cabinet secretaries are frustrated. But we can't complain loudly because Kenyans want to apply austerity measures. Do you give me money to travel or give money to capitation? So those are the balancing act that we have to employ. But we try to support them. Counties misappropriating donor funds. Yes, I have taken action in many counties, including your own county, Honorable Aseka, Kakamega, and I stopped the disbursement to them until they corrected. They brought some correction. We have done to Taita Taveta, Bomet, and even Nyamira. So we are not, yeah? I don't think we've done, yeah, but we can check. I can send my team to find out. Let me move quickly. Communication. Whether National Treasury lacks Communication Department. No, we have a communication department, Mheshimiwa, actually headed by someone who comes not very far from your place. It's called Mr. C. He's a very good man. That is National Treasury. We have another department, even economic planning has communication department led by a lady. We have PIAM as communication department. All these people support us very well. But I also told the ministry that I'm the chief communicator. Because, you know, in Kenya, it's not lack of information. In Kenya, it's politicization of information. And our technocrats find it very difficult to deal with a situation where someone just wakes up and says that in the finance bill, he has seen that we are converting freehold land into leasehold. How do you expect an ordinary and technocrat in the ministry to deal with that? You need a politician now to deal with that, like me. So I told them, now when it comes to engaging on this misinformation, disinformation, I take the lead because I am well and better placed to deal with such kind of communication. And you can see when I communicated that, there has been no rejoinder. I mean, he has not come to say that I'm lying, he's the one who was right. So he knows he was lying to Kenya. And I will keep on calling them out whenever I find them trying to mislead Kenyans who probably don't understand. Look at my finance bill. They keep on reporting controversial. Where is the controversy? Tell me, mention 1, 2, 3, 4 controversial clauses in the finance bill. It's not there. It's an imagination, fiction, bringing things that are not there, just to hype emotions, incite people, leading to 24th, is it 24th or 25th memorial? You know, that is what they are working on. They want to disrupt my finance bill on reading of my budget statement on 11, but I'll deal with them. 11th, I must read, because I have a duty to Kenyans to read my budget highlights without any interruption. So I will make sure it is read without any interruption. And after reading it without any interruption, we will tell them, now you can deal with your politics of commemorating the day. Yeah? And commemorating the day is okay. We can commemorate it peacefully without any problem. And the police can provide security and do, but please don't incite Kenyans, especially about finance bill. What is it in this finance bill that would warrant someone to stand? You have read it, members of parliament. What is in it? Why don't you tell me 1, 2, 3? If you ask them, they will look at you like this. No one is telling you anything wrong with the finance bill. Mashako, Honorable Mashako, how long will it take Kenyans to feel in their pockets? I think I've addressed this and to be able to feed their children. But you'll agree with me, Honorable Mashako, that the government has really tried, like the cost of basic commodities. We have tried. If it were not for this rise in fuel prices, we had managed inflation. Down from 9.6 to now it was 4. Actually, it went to 2.7 inflation. And of course, you know, you can't put inflation to 0 because then that would choke the economy. Economy must also grow. That's why we agreed on 2.5 to 7.5% as reasonable. In terms of TVET, we have just provided 8.2 billion this financial year. And we will disburse it. Once you approve, we'll disburse. Honorable Babu, on cooperation between national and Nairobi County government, I think I may come with a better answer for this. But I know that we will be funding through line ministries some activities, but there is on sewerage we are providing about 2.5 billion, if I'm not wrong. I'm done. Now the last one is audit of public debt. You see, what I said is I asked the Auditor General, because that is our mandate, to audit public audit. And he came, to the audit public debt. He came at entry meeting with us, and I left it to her. The law does not allow me to control that office. In fact, I cannot even ask her, where is that public debt audit? It is Parliament that can request her to make public what she has found. If she is still progressing, she will report. You have more powers, by the way, than me you can write to her to ask her to avail that report. But I know she has done the public debt audit of our debt, so that we remove this notion being peddled around by Safena leadership and others that our debt is opaque. Yet you go to the Treasury website, it is there. Our debt, everything is there. Even what we are going to take, the debt we are adding this year is there, next year is there. And we are really working to make sure that we go for cheaper debts. Chair, it would interest this committee to know that we are getting the first samurai bond, isn't it? Then I hope in a matter of days. And it is much cheaper looking at the costing of that debt. So we are looking at possibility of exploring other cheaper debts compared to previous years. Let me stop there, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Members, you will agree with everyone here that the team from Treasury has done very, very well.
Yes.
And they are satisfied us with all the answers that we wanted. And therefore, the only thing left is for us to discharge them until they can go and focus on other responsibilities. So, Waziri, thank you very much and for your appearance, and also with your team. We are always happy with the support you're giving Parliament. And we also promise to continue giving you the same support. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.